Hello, hello world, hello internet. Good
Hey
morning,
everyone.
good afternoon, good evening. How's everyone doing? Welcome to Live. I'm your host Sam Basu, and it's Friday, so we get to. Is it Friday? I think it is Friday,
Indeed.
right? I'll
Indeed.
lose track. So we get to stretch our legs and hang out with people we are missing out, hanging out in person, just kind of sitting down with somebody and having a conversation. So welcome to the chat show. But before I introduce my esteemed teammate here, actually, this is the first time I'm live on the internet this week, which is weird. I mean, I did a webinar with like a few hundred people, but that doesn't count. We are live on the internet. Well, I do a Thursday show, and yesterday everything I'm all ready, and then my camera would not turn on. The camera is like, I've seen too much of you. I'm done with you. So I could not stream last night or
Oh
yesterday afternoon.
no.
But anyways, I'm back. So with me, I have the totally awesome social media queen. I don't know what else I can call you. You're just totally awesome. Miss Ivana Dimitrova, how are you?
Hey everyone. I'm good, thank you. I wish I was a social media queen. I'd say
You
I
totally
refer
are.
to myself more as a social media human because it's very, social media is something very new, so it's very weird to call yourself like a social media specialist or a manager. And so I just kind of feel like it's the human thing right now.
Yeah, the human is the, yeah, it's a good way to put it. But I mean, maybe that's a LinkedIn thing. You could say I'm a social media queen.
Oh
There are
yeah.
big terms we use in LinkedIn sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, Ivana is totally awesome, and she's actually our teammate. But we're missing out. Just we haven't really had an in-person team meeting in a long time with the pandemic, so this is our chance to kind of get together and know you a little better. I've worked with you a lot, and Ivana is the face for everything that you see that we do for the Telerik and Kenda UI and Fiddler channels. So she's totally the human who does magical automation things with computers and makes us look good. So thank you for what you do. But let's introduce yourself formally. Tell us, who are you?
Thank you. Thanks for that. By the way, it sounds way more glamorous than it actually is, but yeah, I do take care of the Telerik and Kendui and since recently the Fiddler channel. But who am I? Like when you dropped me those questions this morning, and you were like, you should probably think about those because we'll be talking live on the internet. And I saw the first one, and it was who are you? And honestly, I don't know yet.
You're still
Um,
discovering yourself.
This is very, yeah. As far as I've gone, as far as I've discovered, my name is Ivana. I'm 26 years old so far. Um, and right now I do social media in the developer relations team of the DevTools division of Progress, together with Sam and other people you see on the stream here. It's Ed, Alyssa, TJ, Sarah, Cindy. We have a very kind of dispersed and diverse team of people here. And yeah, I do the social media kind of things mainly, but honestly, I what you said, just making Telerik and Kendi UI looking good, it takes a village. Like it literally is. And you know it, like all of our team is involved and other people from other teams. So yeah, I guess that's where I am in the self discovery right now. I do social media with a lot of people, and I'm also, my name is Ivana, and I'm 26. That's as far as I've gone.
And I'm just jealous of so many things you said. One of it, I mean, you're just outright with your age. And one of my good friends, he turned 30. And you might know him, Mike Kulopoulos. He works in Boston for our office, and he's excited. I'm like, how is life in the 30s? And he's all excited. And then he asked me, how's life like beyond the 40? And I'm not quite 40 yet. I'm getting there. And my answer was just like everything hurts, and yeah, you just try to survive it one day at a time. And whenever I talk to you, I get this like eternal like sinking feeling that I'm just not cool enough to hang out with you folks anymore. Because like, so you use emojis that I have to look up. You refer to rock bands that I have not heard, and I just get this like sinking feeling like, oh my god, I'm getting old, so old.
Oh,
But
Sam, I don't
yeah.
think it's the age. I think it's just us being, and especially with social media, us being subjected to the Gen Z discourse
Mhm.
on social media, which is like teenagers and very young people. And when I read their stuff, I'm like, Okay, okay. Like it's I am getting there. I'm getting to the place of like you're cringe at this point. Don't say some of the things. So it's yeah, I
Hmm.
think especially with social media, it's very easy to get in that feeling when it's not actually true.
Yeah, that's a good like litmus test. Like, does Zen G cringe at some of the things we are saying?
Yeah.
Hopefully, not too much. But okay, so
I mean,
let's learn
yeah,
more
why not?
about you. Yeah. You live in beautiful Sofia, Bulgaria. How long have you lived there? Do you love it, hate it?
Yeah, so I'm currently in Sofia, but I've lived here for 3 years now. I moved Yeah, I think I moved 3 years ago, and I've loved it so far. But there are bits that I hate. I was born and raised in Plovdiv, Bulgaria, which is like the
It's a
chillest place
beautiful
on
town.
earth. Thank you,
Hmm.
thank you. Yes, absolutely, absolutely is a little bit of plug here. Plovdiv is absolutely beautiful, but it's very chill, and it's very nice weather. You get all those like really mellow people all year round. Um, excuse me. Sofia is not very much like that. Sofia is kind of the opposite. People are very fast and different. And I've lived in London, which is also kind of a similar, very fast paced, very dirty city, environment. But yeah, Sofia, I guess, is somewhere in between the two. It has some wonderful, wonderful sides to it, but it could also be very annoying at times. But I think
Hmm.
the biggest plus of Sofia is that it's walkable.
Yeah.
Still, at least central part, which is a huge, huge thing for me. So love it so far. Who knows?
Yeah, and Sofia. I mean, like you said, like it's very busy, and people. It's a metropolitan area. But the nice thing is, like, if you wanted to, like, you could just get out in nature very quickly. Like, you're surrounded by mountains and other places where you can just go and hang out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love Sofia. I love Plovdiv. I love most places in Europe. Which I sent out a tweet this morning, Ivana. We just bought plane tickets to go somewhere this summer after
Oh,
like
that's
a year and a
amazing.
half. Yeah, so like, oh,
Oh my god, how do you feel about it? Isn't it very weird to be
it
buying
is
like
weird. It is
travel?
weird. Yeah, and in the U.S., I think like we are doing very well in terms of vaccine access. So the troubling or the little thing to take care of is like the kids. They're not going to be having access to vaccines this year. I mean, they're doing research, so like we can't let our guard down. But it's like a calculated risk, trying to stay away from the
Yeah.
crowds and all that stuff. But yeah,
Oh
it
my
would be
god.
nice to get away from our homes for a little
Congratulations.
bit. Yeah.
Congrats on getting tickets. This is so
Yeah,
it's yeah, it's so different for me as
yeah.
yeah, just that's awesome.
So, how did you like? You're a little piece of gem that we have discovered
Thank you.
as a human and as a coworker. How did you come to progress? Where did you like? What do you do as a job responsibility, and what are all the things that you're responsible for?
Yeah, it was very random, I have to be honest. I didn't expect to be in this area of work, I guess. I've studied history of art. I was
Hmm,
supposed to go into the art industry. I wanted to be a curator. I
interesting.
actually wanted to work with young artists and kind of get them into the art scene. But ultimately, I didn't necessarily like the industry. I didn't fit very well. And then I came back to Bulgaria. I had some experience with marketing and communications before that, and I've done like the small startup, the agency. I've done an alcohol production company, like all sorts of different places. Very random. And then I came back, and I didn't necessarily I taught for a year. I taught little kids from the ages of 7 to 12. I taught them English, and then I wasn't really sure where I fit, so I decided to go back to communications. And then sometime after, randomly, I saw the position and it sounded very interesting, very exciting. My sister has been in technology for many, many years, and we were talking about it. And she was like, "Yeah, you should definitely apply. Like, technology is such a fun world. You should try it. I think you'd do very well in it." And I applied almost like as a game. And then we had a conversation with Sarah. And I think Sarah, by the way, is our manager, if someone watching isn't
Miss Sarah Fats.
aware. Miss Sarah Fats, you might have seen her on streams, in chat, everywhere. She's everywhere where we are. She's absolutely awesome. And we just had a chat and it clicked. And then ever since, I've been doing the Telerik and Can Do I social presences. I've been working with you guys on those streams and on Twitch. And recently, we welcomed a new awesome coworker, Cindy, who helps us with our YouTube channels. So anything kind of social media, digital communications around Telerik and Can Do I, and recently Fiddler, I'm part of.
Hmm.
And yeah, I write those posts. I reply to some of the messages, so please be nice. Don't use curse words because we won't answer. Even if you're mean, if you're not using curse words, we'll try to solve your problem. But if you're being mean, we'll probably ignore you. So, gold advice from a social media person: never be mean on social media because there is an actual human behind the brand. So.
There you go. Yeah. So that's a lot to juggle. But do you like find yourself like is it hard to describe what you do like to your parents or like to others who are not in
Oh
the
yeah, for
industry?
sure. For sure. Like none of my friends know what I do. Everyone is always explaining it in a different way. My parents definitely don't know what I do. I've tried to explain it. I'd say I'd have better like explaining it to my 5-year-old niece. It's yeah, she's more aware of what I do
Hmm.
than anyone else on the family, and maybe my sister because she's in the same world as me. But other than that, it's very hard to describe. A lot of people are like, "So, what do you do again? Do you scroll all day? Like, what's the do you just post stuff? Like, what's the deal? Do you code?" People are asking me if I code, and I'm like, "Well, it's a long story. I don't code. I don't only scroll. I sometimes scroll, but it's just a very new thing that people do. So it's very understandable that it's not that kind of known and clear in people's minds."
Yeah. It is a like I do not envy your position. Like I would like I am scared to even get like one of our like corporate channel thingies on my phone because like I mean there are kids around and it's a huge responsibility because like you can very easily invite like a PR disaster if you don't know what you're doing and to keep like so many channels across so many fonts going like I do not want to be in your shoes. It is quite crazy what you all do.
I think it's very
Yeah.
much a very kind of start, not necessarily start of your career because some of it is very tricky, as you said, but definitely start of your energetic kind of
Hmm.
career place because it does require quite a bit of energy and it does require quite a bit of communication with a lot of people. But I would say is all I would say is like if you're a nice person, you shouldn't be worried that you'll say something wrong because I think generally at least the people on our team would never say anything intentionally to be offensive or to exclude someone. So I guess in that sense we're also very privileged to be in that team. But yeah, I don't think anyone on our team should be very worried to have the channels on their phone is all I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like it's simple. Like, don't be a jerk on the internet. But
Exactly.
again, common sense sometimes cannot be so common, and
Turns
sometimes
out,
like
yeah.
we are passionate about things, and that's perfectly okay as long as we're not bad mouthing anybody else, because that's not
Absolutely.
how we have a dialogue. So yeah, so that's
Absolutely.
all that you do now. But I mean, how do you start your career? Like you said, you were in UK for quite some time.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. First internship ever I did was for a PR team, a communications team in, as I said, alcohol production, and I was very lucky to have two very cool mentors, very very experienced women in the industry, which is again very it's a very rough industry. I didn't know that. It's very
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's a very heavily regulated industry, so it means that you have to be very creative in the way you communicate it, but you also have to be very assertive. It's a huge market. So I really liked it there. It was very interesting. It was very fun. And also, they were very open to letting me do whatever, which was very cool for someone who was just starting out. I got to produce a video there, which was completely different. It was in 2014. I didn't know how to shoot. I didn't know how to edit. They welcomed an editor in and he was showing me stuff and I was like, I have no idea what you're doing, but this looks great. So let's just roll with it. I had no idea how to write a script. It was very, Yeah, it was a huge experience, but it was really fun. And I think that's when I kind of, I wouldn't say I fell in love with storytelling because it's very cliche, but it got me really interested in the way you can tell stories to people so you can get them to do something online. And I found this very fascinating, and the way people behaved online and all of that. So I guess that's how I started. But then my path was very like, it stopped and it started. I thought I wanted to work in an agency, in an ad agency, and I had a tiny bit of experience there. It was not my environment. I'm not going to lie there. It's very much a different space, and I definitely didn't think I would fit in. And then the startup was some of my college mates had done a small startup that dealt with festival logistics. And they were PhD students, and the startup was very tiny, and they were doing it on the side. And they welcomed me as their marketing intern. And we had a very nice summer of just, prepping for a festival and going to a music festival and having a lot of fun and raising awareness for the brand. But then they ended up doing research for actually Alzheimer's and cancer. So they stopped. They stopped doing festival logistics, and they ended up actually both of them being very cool scientists. So I guess that's kind of how it started in the beginning, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, yeah, that's quite a diverse background. Like, I wish I had experience in other industries. I mean, this is what I have always done because I mean, it does open your eyes to some of the constraints and some of the other like factors you're exposed to in other industries.
Yeah, definitely. And it's very interesting how different and the same people are. So people dynamics aren't very different in different industries. And from what I've heard, people are a lot like, oh, I'm from this industry or that industry. People kind of identify with the main field they work in, but ultimately it's just people dynamics, especially in teams. So yeah, I think if you're brave enough, you can fit anywhere, and if you're,
Yeah,
kind of flexible enough. I think I'm very lucky and privileged with having so much experience in different industries. I've met many different people, and I think this is one of my main kind of sources of creativity and inspiration. I think different people from different places just, this is the battery of like energy. You need to recharge that. You need to recharge
yeah,
your surroundings and your network with different people.
yeah. Well said. Well said. All right, so let's talk more about like what you do now, and like you mentioned a few things like you need you need storytelling, but social media is difficult because like a lot of us like to portray a different like view of ourselves on social media,
Definitely.
and you have so many aspects to this, like inclusion and diversity, and making sure you're talking to everybody and you are maintaining a corporate tone, but yet at the same time you're trying to be fun. So, what are some of the most like exciting parts of what you do, and what are some of your like challenges?
This is the way you put it. I think it's just perfect. It's very multifaceted. And I'd say the exciting part is both exciting and challenging. So it's kind of the one and the same thing. So first of all, a lot of your work is out in the public. So everyone sees what you do, everyone sees what you write. But not many people know what happens in the background. So yeah, it's kind of, it's very bizarre in that sense, because also everyone is on social media. So there's sometimes a sense that anyone can do social media. So you'll get a lot of people kind of coming up to you and being like, oh, why are we doing this? And why are we doing that? And you find yourself having to explain yourself, which is only natural because people do want to contribute. And again, as I said, this is also exciting because you get different points of views, you get different ideas. People do have fresh eyes when they're from, when they're an outsider perspective. But at the same time, you have to kind of dig in yourself and be like, okay, this isn't a dig in on your job. It's just people being interested in what you do.
Right.
And you have to constantly go between kind of explaining, being nice, because sometimes you've tried something and it hasn't worked, and at the same time, listening to ideas. So I guess this is a very exciting and challenging part. And also, what you said about mixing your tone and the way you direct words towards people, the words you use, this is always it's very interesting, again, exciting, but very challenging. And especially today, I think it's very important to make a channel speak to kind of be able to speak to everyone. So not everyone on social media should be speaking to everybody, but you should be able to be flexible enough to include everyone. Because there are so many cool people that you wouldn't even believe maybe don't necessarily understand all of your language that you're posting in, or maybe they're very new to a certain industry, or um, I don't know, they're younger or they're very much older. Just being able to accommodate those people and being able to welcome them is just so awesome, and it's such a positive thing for a channel and for a brand to be able to do on social media. But as I said, exciting and challenging. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
So let me ask you a few, like maybe a few tricky questions here on. So I can see a few like real challenges to social media, especially in these days. One is like when you are speaking behind a brand, and then you have your own brand, right, and your own voice. So how do you differentiate between the two? I mean, are social media folks or folks who concentrate on this, are you concerned about losing out on your own voice and your own brand because you're always speaking from a different brand?
That's very interesting, actually. I've never thought about it. I don't think so, because I guess the I guess the main kind of trait of a communications person is to be able to kind of change with what they're with. It's kind of like being an actor. You get in a role, you talk in a certain way, and you use certain words for a specific brand, but then you're able to go to another one. Maybe there are a lot of
Mm.
people in our industry, social media managers who are freelancers and cover plenty of industries and plenty of verticals, and they're very successful in two or three or four verticals. So I think being able to do that is a very key skill.
Yeah,
I'm not worried on losing my own kind of personal social media voice, also because it's always developing,
right.
and also because I think, yeah, if you remind yourself that you need to keep being authentic on your own channel specifically, um, I think you should be fine. Yeah. As long
Yeah.
as you're, keeping to your truth or whatever, being your best self. As long as you're not harming anyone, by the way. Don't be mean on social media, everyone.
I was going to ask you about like trolls and how you deal with some of that, but to your point, like when you are speaking behind a brand, like for like our own careers, like you are leaving a breadcrumb trail to say, so the at Telerik channels from like this day to this day, that was me, and that like your personality kind of shines through a little bit, even when you're speaking through a brand, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it should. Like, you should get people, especially, I guess, for people who are managing brands, I'd say it's very cool if you get people who are close to what your brand is, um, because it seems most authentic. People on social media are very, just as we are in real life, we're very kind of sensitive to other people's behavior. I think it's the same way on social media. If someone is being faked, it's very easy to spot. So, yeah, if you can avoid that, just get someone who's not going to be fake on your brand account.
Yeah. All right, so let me ask you this again. More challenging questions here. So, any social media front, like you are bound to get some hate, right? Because
Oh,
like
yeah.
people might be, it might be hurting on completely a different front, but they come and vent. And how do you deal with that? How do you not get personal, or when do you ignore versus when do you feel like there's a genuine like some pain and you want to address some concerns?
This is like the conversation every social media managers group has, like, oh my God, the haters, look at what this person wrote. We do share screenshots, by the way. This is, we do rant at each other. It is a thing. I think we're very lucky on our channels. We don't get much hate. Most of the people that reach out, even if they have a problem, they're very nice, respectful. When you get a troll, however, I'd say there are a few ways you can deal with that. Out nice them, or just ignore them, really.
Mhm.
Or if there is a genuine problem there, try to solve it. If they're having a very, very bad experience with your product, don't go in explanation mode. Just go and try and help them. It happens to everyone. Everything can break. I think this is very important to point out. So just getting the feedback and taking it and, fixing it, it's all good. And I like to say that the sourest people, the saltiest people on social media can turn into the best advocates for your brand if you treat
Yeah.
them right.
Hmm.
Because when you're very mad and when you're very angry and you go and vent and you get very mean, and when this kind of feeling is met with actually understanding, compassion, empathy, people turn very quickly.
Hmm.
They won't keep that anger towards you, and they won't point it that much anymore. So if you're nice, that actually leaves. If you're nice to an angry person, that actually leaves a way more lasting impression. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess. And
Yeah.
if someone
Well
is
said.
very rude
Yeah.
and mean, definitely ignore. If it's very
Yeah.
rude, definitely ignore.
Yeah, yeah. Don't curse. Like, and then, but I mean, if there is genuine pain, and I have a little story. Like a couple of years back, so I there was like a new piece of technology that we were launching, and again, I think it's perfectly fine to be passionate and maybe taking sides at times, as long as we are not showing others in bad light, because like competition keeps
Absolutely.
us on our toes. So I poured in my heart and soul. I wrote up this beautiful piece of article, which I thought was well thought out, well rounded. And the very first comment was like, "This sucks." And you could say like, "Oh, okay, well, why are you saying that?" So we actually reached out to this person and tried to understand, because it's easy to hate a company or a product. It's a little
Yeah,
more difficult to hate humans, right?
absolutely.
So once you get to the bottom of the pain, like what is it that you're hating, you can turn them around. And this person was very happy to work with us. But yeah, it's a nonstop thing on social media, isn't it? Just balancing everything out.
Absolutely. And I think it's the best place for people to rant. Like when you don't have such huge access to therapy, this is this is where you go. It's
Yeah, yeah,
and it's normal.
yeah.
Also, giving grace is. I think it's very important for a lot of social media managers to keep reminding themselves that it's not directed at you. Because sometimes when you're also tired, reading a message like that, even though you know that this person doesn't know you're there, it hits you hard. So reminding
Hmm.
yourself that it's not directed at you, this also helps a lot.
Yeah, yeah. That is an important distinction. Like I would find a hard time, because like I'll take everything to heart, and then
For sure.
yeah, really struggle. But yeah, it's important to remember it's not directed at you sometimes. So
Absolutely.
let me ask you another thing, maybe. Since you have worked in other industries, like how do you feel like we developers approach social media? Do you find any challenges? Do you find everybody is here to learn, or do you find there are any unique things you have to like change in your tone when you're talking to developers?
This is it's actually very interesting. I find so far, almost 2 years, I found the developer community one of the most vocal ones, I'd say. Um, you get a lot of opinions, but you also get a lot of sharing, which I think is very different from other industries. And I think it's very, um, it's like it's the treasure of the community. There are a lot of people that are so willing and so open to share their knowledge. I haven't seen this in any other industry, at least from my perspective. I haven't covered them all, so that's from the ones I know. I haven't seen it anywhere, and I think this is the best kind of trait of developers on social media. They're very ready to help, to give advice, to share experience, even if they're very opinionated, even if they give a very opinionated kind of answer to you've asked something on social media, they will still try to help you, which I think is very, very sorry, my cat is just going crazy,
No, no,
which I think
cats are
is,
welcome if they want to come
I don't
on
know if
by.
she wants, she knows, but
No, okay, she knows
she
you're in a
loves the
meeting.
camera. um but yeah, that's I think this is the biggest
Yeah.
treasure of the community, and I do find it to be a very distinctive trait,
Yeah,
of the
no,
developer
that's well
community.
said, and I generally do think it is like the developer community, and a lot of us kind of start from the grassroots, like user groups and conferences, and then we have a bigger community online, and it's a big network that we fall back on, and generally everybody just wants to help, and we
Yeah,
might have like flared like passions at times because we have strong opinions, but for the most part, folks don't want to just like trample over anybody else because we are all here to learn, and
absolutely.
it's a big network of like a big family. Yeah.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
this is very cool.
Yeah. I think it really is because it gives you that like sense of belonging, and it gives you a
Hmm.
sense of like I have a set of folks to fall back on if I'm stuck or whatever else I might need in my career. I can go to other folks who have traveled the same path maybe, and yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's talk more about you. You see a lot of technologies from a variety of developer backgrounds. Like, is there anything that like really stands out to you that you feel excited about?
I mean, again, every day through scrolling through social media, there's so much. People are developing so many cool things. I think lately I really like the idea of VR and where we
Mm-hmm.
can take it. And
Yep.
especially watching Ed and Alyssa's streams, they look so fun. They're, by the way, if someone watching doesn't know this, they're streaming every Thursday on Horizon. They're streaming here and on Facebook in Horizon, which
Yep.
is the Facebook VR space, and they're doing very fun things. They're doing game development right now. They're trying to develop like a fun game to play in VR, and I'm very excited about this. I think it's going to be a very cool thing that we have and we can play around with. But also because in the past 7 years, I've moved a couple hundred times, I feel like. I've never been able to explore smart homes. But
Mm-hmm.
now I'm on the cusp of
Mm-hmm.
moving to a place that I'm hoping will stay for a longer time. So now I'm interested in smart homes and technology that can make your space more yours, I guess, and more customized to you. So watching Jeff Blankenberg doing stuff on Alexa, this has been so cool and so fun to see what you can do with little tiny pieces of technology around your house. You can just control everything. So these are the two
Yeah.
things that I'm very very excited about.
Yeah, and those are two very exciting things. I think VR is an amazing horizon, like not to pun on horizon, but just like the next level of human computer interaction that is acceptable, and I mean things will evolve quite a bit more, I think, in the next few years, so you don't have to strap on that
Yeah,
big thing on your eyes. And then home automation is just a whole world to get into. There's just so much one can do
so
to
much.
make your home smarter and have assistance and automation all around. So yeah, I think you have hit upon like two really cool things to watch out for the next few years. Yeah.
Really excited.
Speaking of tech, anything you really treasure as a tech gadget or a thing that you use all the time?
I mean, it's my phone. It has to be.
Yeah.
I am completely inseparable from my phone to the point where my cat hates it, and also my partner hates it as well. But I try to limit my time after work. But it's very addictive. It's very hard, especially. I mean, I work in social media. I blast myself with content all the time just to get inspiration. I have my favorite brands and favorite accounts and all of that. But it's very hard, and there are pluses. I can do almost everything from my phone, but there are also very kind of bad sides to it. I can get very sucked into it. So it's a treasure technology, but it's also something that I need to control better. And I
So
try to.
let me ask you this: like, how do you consume content? Like, is it pretty much all digital, or do you like kind of like separate and go read books or any other type of media?
I try to read books on paper, although I do like the idea of a Kindle and not using that much paper, just generally. But I try to read on paper just to have something different. I also try to write a lot by hand, not to lose my kind of
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
good handwriting, good penmanship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it also helps me think in a different way. So I try to do analog things as much as I can, but
Yeah.
it's hard.
No, that's a good point. My wife is a college professor, and she's teaching like freshmen and then juniors and seniors in college. And these are like 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And their handwriting is, geez, like if I had to sit through and understand their handwriting, I will go nuts.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
good that you try to keep on writing because
Yeah.
like our modern lives are so digital that we are just losing touch with some of
Oh,
these
for
things of
sure.
just writing and reading. Yeah.
For sure. And I am a believer that your thought process is different when you're writing by hand. I always used to write my notes by hand at university. I tried to do the whole like notes on my laptop. It did not work at all. But I'm very surprised that young kids are already losing their, you
Yeah, I
know,
mean, it depends. It's not a blanket statement, but like I would say, like overall, like handwriting. Like again, I'm old. For folks who are in my age group are better than folks who are much younger and coming through the ranks now. Because again, I mean,
interesting.
you're just like my kid is just all about typing, right? And that's kind of
Yeah.
how you grow up in schools. So yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you just outside of work. Like, what's your work-life balance like? I've hung out with you a little bit. I get a little sense of what you're into, but just tell us more. Like, how do you relax?
Oh my God, my work-life balance is horrible right now because we can't go anywhere. I'm gonna be completely
Yeah,
honest. Like this
yeah,
isn't,
it's true
it's
for
not,
everyone.
yeah, we can't go anywhere. We can't see our friends that much. It's been very heavy on me.
Yeah,
I really miss just hanging out with my friends, but I'm hoping the weather gets better and we get to hang out in parks and just go on hikes and do stuff
yeah,
together. But these are kind of the things that I like to do. I like to hang out with different people from, you know, from my network. I have friends who do all sorts of different things, so they're very interesting to talk to. And I like the outdoors. I like
yeah.
going
And
on
then you're big
hikes
into
and
hiking, right? I mean, I often see you just kind of take off into the mountains, and you're big into hiking. And
we
I mean, do you
try
camp?
to. Sometimes, yeah, I do like camping. I haven't camped in I think a year.
Hmm.
Um, I try to get as much outdoors as possible. Walks, and again, we're very privileged here because we're very close to the mountains. We have some really big parks. Also, I'm from Plovdiv, which is very close to the Rhodope Mountains, which are my favorite. We have a house in the mountains.
Oh, nice.
It's yeah, it's just very it's something that's kind of from the way we grew up. Um, but yeah, we do camp sometimes. Yeah, I haven't camped in a while actually. That's a very good question. And I know I
Yeah,
need a new tent, but
there
I'm
you go.
I'm finding it very hard to choose one. So
This might be one of the like the rare silver linings of being in a pandemic. I think we have all explored nature and parks and hikes and
oh yeah,
mountains a lot, but not more than what we would have normally done. So yeah, it's
yeah,
good to
for
get
sure.
out and get some fresh air.
For sure. And I'd say for anyone who hasn't tried camping, try it. It's very fun. And I think right now it's very good because you're very socially distanced.
Yeah,
You're in the woods and there are no people around you. So it's
yeah,
the best time to do it.
right. What about food? Any favorite cuisine you got?
Well, you know parts of me, so I like my food. I like to eat, but I'm very basic when it comes to favorite foods and favorite cuisines. I like European food a lot, so I like Italian food and French food and even sausages from Germany. I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
Um, and I really like Turkish food. I really like Lebanese food. Oh my God. I really like Indian food. I really like so many. Just Asian food, all sorts of yeah, I love sushi. Sushi is a big thing with me lately. I don't know why. I really like it. I mean, I know why because it's delicious, but I can't make it, but I definitely love eating it. Um, we recently got a Korean restaurant that opened near our house. It's very delicious. Mexican food. I'm a huge fan. Just
nice. Just
everything
bring
that's
it
hearty
all.
and
Everything
delicious.
is good.
Yeah. I
And
can't choose
I
one.
do believe like people who are foodies are genuinely good at heart because like
Yeah.
we live to eat and to
Yeah.
enjoy life. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Cool. All right. So if you had a million levs right now, and levs, folks, that's the Bulgarian leva, which I mean, uh, for you, like a million is probably not as big, like in terms of currency, as it would be if it was like dollars. But let's just assume you had an enormous sum of money right now. What would you do?
I lately I've been really interested in people who are doing
Mm,
environmental innovation. So I'd like to think that I would go and invest in small maybe enterprises that are
yeah.
working on. bettering the environment, and especially in the textile industry, because I'm very big on slow fashion and sustainable fashion and all of that, because it's very hard. There isn't that much information out there, I think, and it's very hard for people to understand that you don't have to buy every trend to be trendy and to look good. And I think this is very important, and it's also part of the things that I do like to explore in my free time. So I'd probably go and try to invest in something like
Yeah.
that. But I would also probably like for it to be a good return on my investment, so I can do other stuff, I guess, as well. Support, the causes that I like locally, and just there are so many things that are happening around that could use a little boost. I guess I just go and find them, and
Yeah.
again, as you said, 1 million isn't like the biggest sum of money, but when you think about it, it kind of gives you a bit of an idea of where you would like to focus your efforts, maybe. So I guess it's, yeah.
No, so that is an interesting thing you bring up. Like environmental sustainability is obviously important, and when we think about climate change, we think about the bigger things like automotive industry and transport and computing. But like you brought up fashion, and I think I read somewhere, like, I mean, that industry is also a big contributor in the way they
Yeah.
produce, right? So you're talking about like sustainable fashion. Like, what does that even like mean?
Yeah, so it's so multifaceted, actually. And I can go on a
No,
tangent
go
here, like
go a
'cause
little
so
bit.
many
Yeah.
but so many cool things. It's because it's such a huge process of the production, and then sewing it, and then selling it, and then collections and designing it and all of that. It's so kind of every part is very detrimental to the environment,
Mm,
unfortunately. The way we produce fabrics and textiles is very kind of it's not very good to the ground and to the
yeah.
soil. And then the way we use pigments. So I didn't know, I love black, by the way. I like dressing in black, and I didn't know an artist recently did an exhibition underwater, and uh, he had collaborated with
Underwater exhibition.
yeah, it was very
Interesting.
cool. I'm gonna
Hmm.
drop a link later, but he had collaborated, I think, with someone in the textile industry, someone doing research, and they discovered that black was the worst pigment to use.
Mm,
It's very detrimental. It's very, chemically, so it's very horrible to the environment. But because it's very much in fashion, you can't avoid it. Oh, hey, Ed. we're
it's
talking
lurking.
about we're talking about horrible things in fashion, and Ed's here hyping us up. But
Ed
yeah, and
doesn't know
then
a thing about
also
fashion. No, who knows? Like
he
Ed's
knows
old.
about 80s fashion, I think. Sorry, Ed.
Yeah, that's what I had read. Like some of the dyes and the pigments that they use in that industry are
Yeah.
like really bad, and like how they dispose of that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also working conditions could be horrible. I'm
Hmm.
good, Ed. Thank you. I'm
Okay,
good.
Ed's dropping Bulgarian here that I will have to go and translate. Yeah.
He's asking how we are doing, but
Well, we're hanging.
yeah,
We're just
we're
hanging.
hanging.
The young and the old is just hanging out, and the old is just trying to survive a day where everything aches, and the young is
Oh
just
no.
doing nice and fine. We're talking. We were on a tangent talking. We're talking environmental impacts
Yeah.
of some other industries.
But yeah, just
Yeah.
working conditions, and so many, and then the way it's marketed, the way it's
Hmm.
kind of planned. So seasonality of clothes. This is very the amount of clothes that are then disposed of without having been worn
Hmm.
even once is
Right.
ridiculous. So all of that, and weirdly enough, and I'm gonna stop there, all of it comes out from the introduction of universal shops, like big department stores,
Hmm.
which the first one was in France, Paris, and it kind of opened the door not only to fast fashion, but just generally shopping as a thing. It became a thing in the late 19th century.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see the
It
history of
is.
those things
Yeah.
as well, and industrialization, and how it affected the way we use materials, and the way we produce materials, and the way we actually started consuming materials. it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, yeah, and like these gigantic corporations, like and it's like a race down to the bottom. Like you're driving prices down, and you're not realizing some of the impacts of what you're putting out and the conditions in which folks are working. So yeah, I
Absolutely.
think some awareness is definitely called for. And again, like with climate change and environment sustainability, we sometimes don't think about some of the non-obvious things, like with some of the huge like data centers that we run on the cloud, like the amount of heat and power that is needed to kind of get those things going and how you're dissipating that. I mean, it's interesting. It's not just the obvious things like we talk about
Yeah.
transport and automation or anything else. It's a lot of the other stuff as well. And interestingly, like farming and like some of those things are also heavy contributors to like the
Absolutely.
green gas type. Yeah. So
And it's
there's a
very,
lot to it.
yeah, I was gonna say it's very multifaceted, but I think that's also a, it could be a plus. I know that's kind of far-fetched, but at the same time, we're all interested in different things. So if we dug into what are the, what is the innovation that we can support in the field that we're interested in, I think anyone can contribute.
Yeah.
And of course, we have to make big steps, because there is research that says, you substituting your plastic bag doesn't do anything, but it actually does because it's
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
habits and it's grassroots efforts. So, yeah, I guess it's the good side of it being so complex. Beside, the bad side is like it's very scary because it's very complex. But the good side is there are so many people with different interests that can
Yeah.
tackle each of the kind of
Yeah.
complexities. And
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, like awareness helps. Like the big steps don't happen unless we all take small steps together.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so we started with social media and now we are on environmental sustainability. We are taking on big earth problems on one little
Yeah,
stream here, but
we're so gonna solve them now.
yeah, right now. Yeah. So let me ask you this. So we are again, of course, living through a pandemic, but if you look at your work and your life right now, what are some things you're really looking forward to in the near term? Uh, Things that you are inspired and you're looking forward to, and what about like in the next couple of years?
Oh, I'm trying to find those. No, there are things. I think I've been very privileged and lucky to have had a year of where, my family's healthy, and
Yeah.
I, I'm living in a very happy home, and I find myself very lucky and privileged and very grateful. But what I'm looking forward to is we're about to move house in a couple of months, I
Mhm.
hope. So
Nice.
I'm very, very much looking forward to that, and just getting to play around with different stuff in the new place. That's like being able to
Yeah.
create a space of your own. And in the for kind of longer term October December timeline, I'm looking to maybe see you all
Yeah.
in Bulgaria, and maybe we can
Absolutely.
have in-person events, and maybe we can travel again. And yeah, these are the things that I'm kind of clinging to.
Yeah, I truly believe we are seeing light at the end of the tunnel and we are slowly crawling out of it. But I will say, like you have said this several times now, like it shows your humility that you see your privilege and not a lot of us see our privileges all the time. So good for you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's important to have perspective and chats. Yeah,
Yeah.
um, it definitely has taken a whole new meaning. Although sometimes it's, the old meaning of shots that's necessary in this kind of situation. Um, but yeah, I think it's important to keep perspective, but I think it's also important to stay away, especially in a time like that, to stay away from toxic positivity and being like, oh, but because you're very privileged, your problems doesn't matter. Everyone is experiencing it in a different way.
Mhm.
And even though we're here now and both of us are healthy and, can talk on camera and can do the things that we like, actually each and every one of us is experiencing it in a different way, and giving each other grace and kind of reminding ourselves that it's okay to feel the way you feel, I also think it's very important. So
Yeah, technology, and you have dropped some important words here. Which, oh, and speaking of, Raptame is here. She is Cindy. She is the other human behind a lot of the things that you see us do on social media. But that's an important thing you mentioned, like toxic positivity. That's interesting. That's a loaded term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a thing on social media.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in, a lot to think about. But anyways, Ivana, we are eternally grateful for what you do. You make us look good, and I do not envy what you do at all. Like, it's nonstop. You're drinking from the fire hose, and doom scrolling, and all the stuff that social media involves. So I hope you keep your sanity. I hope you keep being as positive and as cheerful and as nice of a person that you are. So
Thank you, Sam.
yeah, thank you
Thanks
for
so much
being
for
awesome.
having me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me. And it's yeah, my work is made easier by the people that I work with. So yeah. And also I think I'm privileged that I do work in the developer community because, as I said, it's a lot of people who actually want to help most of the time. The mean ones are every once in a while. So yeah, it's very cool. And thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for taking some time to just come out and hang. Again, this is what we are missing out, like in person and just like sitting down with somebody. So I enjoy these conversations. So I think this might be it for this week on the stream, unless we are streaming later on in this afternoon, which I don't think we are. So
Yes, Alyssa is going live
oh,
with
Alyssa is going.
another
Oh, I'm
episode.
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
you are Fridays. That's later on. I think 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern time.
2
So yeah,
p.m.
come 2 p.m. Come and hang out with us then until next week when the rest of us get going. I hope everyone stays healthy, stays productive, and keep doing what you're doing. So, one more time, Ivana, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you for having me.
we love what you do, and we love you.
Thank you. And by the way, with that in mind, do you mind if I do a quick plug for the things that
Please
we're
go
doing
for it.
on our team? I'm sorry. I'm a social media person. I have to say it. We have a hackathon going on, everyone.
Yes,
You have
yes.
to go and check it out. Go on our social media channels at
Do you have a
Telerik.
link you can drop? I
Um,
can try dropping it.
if you have it, do drop it because I think it's a very cool opportunity. It's about
Yeah. Speaking of
making
all the
the
good, exactly.
exactly. Yes, it's making the web a worthier place. Thank you, Cindy. She dropped the link.
Oh,
It's
there you
making
go.
the web a worthier place, and we have prizes. We've compiled prizes of $40,000 in
Yay.
cash. So, yeah, go and develop good stuff to make the web a better place, and we'll give you some prizes. I guess. Go check
Yeah,
that out.
man, and come work with us. Essentially, this is a long running hackathon, so I think it's like almost a month and a half, and so you
Yeah,
get to start off with your idea, and all through this time, we're going to do streams where we are actually doing a lot of things that are relevant to building something that's worthy and that's responsive and inclusive. So come and join us, and then at the end of it, you get to pitch your idea and win really, really big prizes. So yeah, come and join us. All right. So with that, we're going to call it a day here until later on in this afternoon, where Alyssa is back with her UR Fridays. But thank you so much for hanging out with us, chat room, and we shall see you on the next stream. Yeah.
thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Yeah.